Hi everybody, we're here with Sharon Lilley on the Sunshine Bus. Sharon, would you mind sharing your Woodstock story, hippie story with us on my YouTube channel?
No, I'd love to.
Awesome. So I do know Sharon, she's a dear friend, and I'm just going to do a little setup. She lives right on Herd Road, which is literally, the traffic is getting ready coming in to go see the Goo Goo Dolls tonight, right?
Right across from the lower parking lot.
So it's very exciting. She's one of the few remaining residents who share the neighboring grounds of the Bethel Woods Performing Arts Center, which used to be the original Woodstock site.
Right.
So.
I'm actually one of two. We built our home 2 weeks before Woodstock happened, and it didn't look as peaceful as it does today. The front lawn was not in. The little porch was not on the front. It was just like a stoop. And but we had made our well. We had just drilled our well, and the man that did it said that you have enough water here to fill a swimming pool. So that was helpful, because with everybody here, and it was person to person all over, because they made everybody walk up Herd Road, and by the time they got up to me, I'm about halfway up to the main site, they were thirsty, they wanted a drink of water. So the faucets in the front and the back of the house ran continually for about 3-4 days.
Wow.
I had a hard time getting in here. I was 7 months pregnant. I had a 3-year-old daughter, and I worked in the operating room, and my girlfriend and I carpooled, and she was trying to get me home. The troopers were not going to let her in at the end of the road here.
You mean home from work at the hospital?
Home from work at the hospital. And so...
What day was that?
It was Thursday.
So around 5, what time did you shift
about
in?
4.
And you couldn't get through?
No, you couldn't get through at all. So they weren't going to let us up. And she says, look at her. She's going to walk up. She lives right there. Look at her. She's 7 months pregnant. So they let us come up. But unfortunately, she didn't have... Well, her horn wasn't working on her little Volkswagen. And everybody descended. That's what they would do. They'd descend on your car to get a ride to where, to go on up to the site. And she was going to the people in Herd Road all over the place. Excuse me, excuse us, excuse us, excuse us. So we get up here. The troopers followed us up here because they didn't believe I lived here. And she dropped me off, and that was that. She took off. I went in and immediately called my boss. And I said, take me off call, because I don't think I can get out of here. There's nothing but people all over the place. And the traffic was, forget it. And down at the end of the road, the troopers were sitting in their cars, and the hippies were controlling the traffic. Believe it or not. So anyway, here I was. Now, my husband, my late husband, was off the farm.
What was his name?
His name was Earle Lilley. And he was, I took him off the farm, but you can't take the farmer out of the boy. So what happened was, he had a nice tractor, John Deere of course, and when the rains started pouring, he had to go, he left. He just went out and started pulling cars out of the mud.
Wow.
In the meantime, I was young enough that I didn't know enough to have extra supplies on hand. So like the milk, I had a 3-year-old, milk. So he had to walk down through the woods and meet my parents. My parents went down to Eldred to get milk, and he walked down to meet them where he could get the milk from them and bring the milk back. Then after that, he was busy, because to him this was a happening. Oh my God, this was so wonderful. To me, forget it. My hormones were up. They had asked me about a week ahead of time, did I want security? And I said, I don't need security. I didn't realize what we were going to have with 400,000, 500,000 people. So I said, no. Well, that day I'd had it. there was 5 guys voiding outside my back of my house here, and I came out and I said to them, I have a little girl inside, go back to the woods. Zip, 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 and they left. And at that point in time, I was so, upset that I called security. Well, we don't have anybody to send. I said, oh, really? Well, I have a gun and I'm going to start shooting. Well, that's all I had to say. In 15 minutes, I had 3 security guys here. And they left me with one little guy who's 18 years old. And on that stoop, he was in the little lawn chair rocker, and he stayed there. And he had a big, he had a sweatshirt with peace on it, a t-shirt with peace on it. And they respected him. They did stay out of my home. They had all the water that they needed. Some of them took showers underneath the water. I felt sorry for 2 young girls who really wanted to be modest, and I let them come into the cellar, and they washed up at the cellar sink.
Thank God you had all that water, because I heard
thank God.
people's wells went dry, and some people didn't even share their water.
Yeah, no, well, they got the water.
You were so generous to share your property and your water.
I had no choice about the property.
I guess not.
So those are my feelings about this big event. I was not into that music at the time. At night I'd walk up with my husband, and the sights I saw were, deplorable to me. He loved them all, but
So a lot of naked people, in other words.
a lot of naked people. A lot of things going on in that field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, wow. So as the days progressed, Thursday was supposedly Friday was the peak, I think, of the amount of people. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think so.
And then the rains came on Friday or
I
Saturday?
think more or less Saturday.
Saturday. And then I remember Sunday, pretty much a lot of folks cleared out. There were something like 50,000. I don't know, it was a lot cleared out by Sunday. Do you remember anything about, like,
The cleanup?
anything else?
The
with
cleanup? The
Yeah,
cleanup
okay,
was
the cleanup.
forever, because everything would blow down, and we'd clean our front lawn, and the next thing you know, we get more garbage. And
And it sounds like your husband helped out with a lot of tows, which was
oh,
also...
he did, yeah, he did.
Did he
yeah.
share any stories with you about, like,
No.
some of his
No.
shenanigans?
No.
He
He
I
was
guess,
a man of the court. He wasn't, no.
I guess knowing, too, you were pregnant and ornery, if I try to put it mildly, he knew what to say, what not to say, right?
Right. That's why we were married 52 years.
God rest his soul.
Yes.
I know you loved him very much.
Yeah.
So, jump ahead now, here we are, 2023, August, coming up on the 54th anniversary is coming up soon. And what do you think of all the changes that Bethel Woods did? Are you pleased?
I'm very pleased with Alan Gary taking it over, Granite's Associates, and making it Bethel Woods, because he did do a great job.
I have to say, Alan and Sandra Gary, Alan was a cable person, right? He had a cable he had a cable.
Yeah, I think in the cellar of his house.
In the cellar of his house, and it bloomed and blossomed and many things, but they ended up purchasing the property here and refurbishing it and made it very it's very beautiful, like with the fencing, and the grounds are pristine grounds. They do such a beautiful job. The beautiful museum inside. I mean, I'm not getting paid for advertising for them, but I've experienced it just as a layperson.
It's a beautiful museum.
And leaving the monument area open for anybody, you don't have to pay for that. You just drive up and be polite, and park and walk around, and you can actually walk on the bowl area where all the folks were observing the main area around where people sat and hung out, and the mudslides and everything facing
the mudslides
facing
that
the
was funny.
lower.
I've seen them. Yeah.
And that's all open, So they do a beautiful job, and
no, it's much better now. Now, there was an interim of time between when the event actually happened until finally Alan Gary was able to make many years. And they were difficult years, because we had all kinds of you know, I
Well,
don't want
people
to.
came back to celebrate the anniversary weekend.
Yes,
And even though it wasn't an official camping area or concert area,
right.
there were concerts erected,
Yeah.
band shells erected, and had a whole list
I-
of performers, and people would camp for days and days and days,
I
right?
used to go up there and talk to some of them that were there at the original, and of course I was at the original, and that was interesting. That was fun to do, but it was much better after Earle and Gary took it over. Much better.
And after you had your children and raised your children.
Yeah, right.
So that's great. Any other like little stories you can think of from the time of, or
Not really, because I stayed more or less at home.
Mhm.
You know, I'd walk up in the evening with my husband just to walk and see what's going on. But I stayed here. I do know that we had to take my daughter. Her bedroom was in the front of the house. We had to put her in our bedroom, and we went and slept in her bedroom because of the noise, and also the smell of the weed. I mean, that was very, very pungent. You smelled that all over the place.
wow.
Yeah.
So I guess Sunday came along, and you were probably a little more relieved to see less people at that point.
Yes.
And then you took some walking down there. It must have been a mess, the grounds.
Yeah, it was. It was a mess.
I heard that the town. Well, I saw in the town of Bethel, they have a little flyer hanging up in the hallway that's typewritten that I made into a sign, an art piece, and it was a flyer that they physically passed out. I think it was Saturday morning or Friday morning. Passed out signs regarding what to do for water, for going to the bathroom, running, and don't run naked in the hot sun. If you're going to do it, run in the shade, and stay away from the brown acid. It was like
Yeah, well, I
directives.
bet with brown acid, I remember I could hear those announcements.
You could.
I could hear the announcements, yes.
Did you see any of the Wavy Gravy Hog Farm folks in your travels?
I didn't, are you talking the one that Duke Devlin belonged to?
I'm not sure where he belonged, but they were a group that came in a bus that had lots of help. They were like ministers to help people with food and bad trips and whatnot. They were like sort of like a missionary group.
I never had any contact with him.
What about Max Yasgur? Did you know him?
Of course I did.
Oh, tell us about Max, because nobody.
Well, I used
every
to
time I
get-
asked someone, they didn't know about Max.
We got our milk delivered from him, which I gotta say, after this happened, a lot of the town people they were not happy, and they stopped buying milk from him, and he did go out of business with his dairy.
I know he died young of a heart attack shortly after.
But I mean, he had a nice speech that he had up there to the kids, and I think he was genuinely wanted to, make peace, love, and happiness,
Yes,
which
yes.
is what it was. It was very peaceful, I gotta say, with all those people. We had a full garden full of vegetables. And of course, my husband always had a electric fence around there, and he spread the rumor that the fence won't kill you, but you could get burned pretty bad. Well, let me tell you, nobody went in that garden. Not one person. They complained to him that he should have a sign that it's electrified.
But no one got hurt.
But nobody got
So-
hurt, and but I felt funny being a registered nurse and having a mortgage and not thinking the same way that they were thinking, at that in that era. Like they come and they go out and they get so high that they lose their partners. They couldn't find their partners. They come to the door and
How young were these people?
well, they were as young as I was. I mean, they were, probably 18, 19, 20.
Okay.
I was maybe 21 if I had
Okay.
my daughter.
Because some of them were 16. I remember a couple of folks here said they were 16.
They were 16. Well, I don't know. But I did also have, with the little security guy that left me, I gave him Band-Aids and ointment and stuff like
Nice.
that for them.
That's
they,
really
they're
nice.
walking around barefoot and then they're
Yeah.
cutting themselves. And
Oh yeah.
But they go back in the woods. They'd be high, and you wonder, well, you didn't want anything to happen to them.
Yeah. Of course.
So, and I think there was only one fatality, and unfortunately, I think he was ran over by a tractor. Because Earle wasn't the only tractor out there.
It was other lots of people bailing people out of the mud.
Yeah.
So as far as the music goes, late, after the Woodstock concert, did you ever enjoy any of those same artists years later? Like,
no, because they weren't my artists.
It wasn't your type.
I'm country western.
Okay.
I've been up and I've enjoyed the country western.
So on the back porch of your house, you used to hear Brad Paisley. I remember you telling me.
I heard Tim McGraw.
Tim McGraw.
Tim McGraw put me to sleep one night.
Aww.
And it depends on how the air is going,
Yeah.
and it depends on their amplification. That you can hear them on the back porch, or especially in my bathroom. You can hear them through the bathroom window.
Well, I'm going to reserve my seat in the La WC. Wow, that's great. So you're a country western gal.
Yep.
Who's some of your favorite country artists?
Oh, Brad Paisley, Tim McGraw. Of course, I like Alan Jackson and Willie Nelson and all that group.
And have you gone and seen them at Bethel?
Yes, I have.
Nice, because I know Alan Gary is a fan of Willie Nelson, and at one of his milestone birthdays, they actually had a private party with Willie Nelson. He was like flown in, and so that was pretty cool. I heard about that. Anyway, any other closing thoughts about?
Well, they've wanted to buy my place, and I don't want to leave here. This is our paradise. We try to keep it as nice as we can, and so that he isn't ashamed of us and wants us to really leave.
Yeah.
He seems to be, happy with us, and I know after Earle died, he had his groundsman mow my lawn for me.
That was nice.
Because he died. He left me right in the middle of the summer.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was very nice.
Wow, it's such a magical place. Like, there's
I
so
don't
much
wanna
good
leave,
now. Like,
so I've told them, and they've left me now. But okay, they tried 3 different times, and said, okay, I don't. When I'm interested in selling, you'll be the first to know.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So.
Well, it's very peaceful now. It's very patrol. It's patrolled.
Yes, it's patrol.
And
yes,
you don't have to worry anymore. You
No.
can go to sleep with peace of mind.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes hear
and listen to
some
the
lovely
music.
country music in the background.
And the people, they've got the parking so that it's much nicer now. The people aren't honking and yelling at each other. I mean, we have had some episodes here where I've had the police here, but I don't want to get into that because that was just,
Passing adjustments.
Yes, because
stuff like
sometimes the kids go up there and then they get in a fight and the driver of the car leave them there and then they're stranded and whatnot. So
well, they have ample parking, so
they're in and out now very peacefully, and it's very well organized, and it's okay. The only thing I have to remember is that when they're having a concert, especially a heavy concert, to be home by 10 p.m. because otherwise the road opens up double lane down to 17B, and I can't get in. So
there are some back roads but they can even get clogged up too. Like there's another back road over
sometimes
here.
they wouldn't. I had an incident where they wouldn't let me come down. They wouldn't let us come down because we went all the way around, and they weren't going to let us come down. So we forced ourselves through the barrier, and we came down.
But now it seems like you don't have that problem much anymore.
No.
Well, anyway, I thank you, Sharon. That was so great.
I'm glad
we have another perspective
together.
here, another perspective of the Woodstock story. Being pregnant and a little bit nesting instincts and trying to, protect your home in the face of 400,000+ people. I would say that's a challenge.
Yeah.
So thank you for Sunshine Bus hippie story. Woo-hoo. So I'm going to leave you with this as I go and shut off the camera.
Okay, great.
Thank you for listening. See you next time.
Bye-bye.